Hello, I'm Mike, and joining me today is Tori, and the topic of today is Soniferatu. We've seen both
Soniferatu.
Soniferatu, the duel, the light and the dark. You couldn't find two further extremes from each other. So both of these movies had come out in very close proximity, 1 week apart, 5 days apart, technically, I think. For their release dates, and we've seen them both. So we're going to be doing our thoughts on both movies. Today's segment is on Sonic 3, and the next episode of the podcast will be on Nosferatu. So we saw Sonic 3. We're going to do no spoilers to start with, and then after a bit we'll transition to a spoiler-ridden, crazy discussion. So, Tori, Sonic 3.
So I had seen the first film. We kind of went through Sonic 2. Really enjoyed it quite a bit. You know, I think if you enjoyed 1 and 2, you're probably gonna like 3. I think 3 just kind of ramps what we've already seen up quite a bit. It introduces Shadow, not really a spoiler thing because he's been in all of the trailers. But I think they do a great job with him. I think all in all, I really, really enjoyed the film. You know, I've got some beats that I want to hit here, but from a macro point of view, I really, really enjoyed this film. I thought it was funny, but not too funny. I thought when it needed to be serious, it was serious. I thought the way that they handled some of the surprises I thought was great. There was a couple things about the film that I feel like they could have done a better job with, but all in all, I thought it was a really, really good time, and it's kind of exactly what I wanted in a Sonic 3.
Same. I've seen it 3 times. So obviously there's a part of me that likes it quite a bit.
Yeah, I need you to send somebody to his house and get him. He's seen Sonic 3 times already.
They'll never take me alive. I'm too fast.
That is awesome. I love that.
So it's funny because, like, I'm gonna level with you here. I am like a huge fan of Sonic. So yeah. But here's the thing. I'm a fan of Sonic the idea. I'm not necessarily a fan of Sonic like the games or the TV show or the whole thing. Like, I love Sonic the character and what can be and has been done with the character, because I don't have the same kind of nostalgia that you have with this franchise. You know, playing Adventure 2 with you, you know, you had very specific memories of that game that you still have like it was yesterday. You're talking about your Chow Garden stuff and like specific names of like your chows that you raised. Like, that's really cool. I don't have that kind of nostalgia because I didn't play that game at that time. I know of it really well because, like, I watched videos of it and kind of lived through it vicariously via speedruns and Let's Plays online, but I didn't play them myself. The first Sonic game that I probably owned when it was new was probably Colors. No, Unleashed. Unleashed for the Wii was probably the first one that I owned when it was like new. Sonic for me was mainly like the Sonic X TV show, a little bit of the reruns of the original Sonic animated show with Jaleel White, and then like watching the games online. So it's like a very different nostalgia. I love these movies. The first movie was like supposed to fail, and they rescued it from the abyss and saved it, and it's like a really good little small movie. And then the sequel was like, all right, we set the stage, let's go bigger, let's introduce more of the stuff from the games: Tails, Knuckles, the Master Emerald, the Chaos Emeralds, the Death Egg robot comes out to play. Robotnik now has like his proper look. He has the mustache now. He has the coat, etc., etc., etc. So I was really excited for 3 because I was like, it's gonna keep going, man. I'm gonna get more stuff, and I was not disappointed. Much like you, I thought that it had like a great balance of like humor, action, and seriousness. It never really went into like annoying comedy. Like, it's a fine line for Sonic to be like, you know, his snarky self and like it being annoying, like a bad Deadpool performance. Thought Shadow was done great. Super like it. I think it's a fun a fun movie, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. We also have TV shows in the mix as well, obviously. So the Knuckles show was fun. It's not great, but it's good, and I'm probably have to assume that we're going to get a show next year to kind of get us through the gap to the fourth one. But it was a good time. Like, they're doing a good job with these movies. Like, something just clicked with this studio and these people, because they know what to do with this stuff. Sonic has translated so well to screen that it's staggering to me. Because, like, for the longest time, the games were just garbage, and it was, like, embarrassing to be a Sonic fan. And he is just crushing it in cinemas.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting to the point where, as far as how well he has been translated into films, we're kind of getting to the point where Sonic might be the best video game to cinema character like ever. I mean, I think as far as what my interpretation of the character is. This is as close as you can get. I think the voice work is absolutely dead on. I think Sonic has always been kind of a full of himself show-off guy, and these films do that really, really well. And this one kind of leans into that a little bit more, and like how that can be a bad thing. So I just think the way that this team and these folks have adapted Sonic to film has been a really, really great job. And I think that, we're going to continue to see these because they're doing well and they're made well and the fans are responding well to this. And I'm just excited to see where it goes. 1, 2, 3 have all been good. And it's really the first time since I've been alive that like video games have finally started to translate into decent films. And I think weirdly enough, Sonic is gonna probably become the benchmark for like how to do these. Like we a lot of times we just want the video game on screen, and a lot of times studios really just tweak with that and they totally screw it up. And I think finally now studios are like, whoa, these people, they just want the games on a big screen. Just do that. If you can build a clientele that will continue to see these films, then take risks. And I just think they've done a great job with these.
It's funny you say that because I had to think about that specifically in my head like today. The thought kind of occurred to me of like that push to just see the game on screen. We have plenty of examples of that not happening, or if it does happen, it only happens in like a sliver. So like the Resident Evil movie, the first one, was like a decent attempt. You had elements of the game, but largely the games were pretty much disregarded in terms of like the universe, core characters. You had zombies, you had the T-virus, but you didn't have like, Wesker or Jill or like any of these characters. Like they weren't there. And like there weren't like monsters and like that element of it. Like, it's kind of there. It's like sort of it's enough that you can't say that it's not Resident Evil, right? And then you have like, just total butt fumbles like the Mario Bros movie. And then we have the other side of it. We have the other extreme. We have like, maybe they went too far into making it on screen. Last of Us. Last of Us is like so much the game on screen that it kind of bored me because I just knew what was going to happen moment to moment. I'd kind of prefer what Sonic is doing, where the games and the lore, at least with the third movie now, like they're being respected and they're being adapted, but in ways that you can expect things, but like the way it's playing out isn't necessarily the same. Because like there absolutely are plenty of story beats in 3 from Adventure 2. So as a fan of that game, like certain things that are going to happen when you see them, but the way that those events are executed aren't necessarily like completely predictable. Little circumstances are different here and there, and some things are just totally different entirely. That said, I think they've really figured out the happy medium for how to put the game on screen. Sonic 3 especially has a lot of stuff just from the games directly. We get to see Sonic like boosting in his ball form through the forest. We get to see like an actual, for the first time, like a sustained spin dash, like he charges up and blasts off. The second movie had the homing attack, like for a brief moment. He definitely does it. He's in the air with nothing to jump off of, spins in the air and rockets forward. It's the homing attack. Like the game is on screen in like little ways like that are just cool to see. But it isn't using it as a crutch or using it too much or letting it restrain the stories they want to tell. So I think that they've really found like a great medium for balancing the games, the lore from the games, but still telling a mostly new story. I mean, the first and second movies were not tied to the games at all from a narrative standpoint. They were their own story. There's just things from the games in them, i.e., the Death Egg robot, the Master Emerald, etc., etc. These characters are like kind of gradually fulfilling their roles from the games in some ways. You know, like Knuckles did not start as the guardian of Angel Island guarding the Master Emerald, but he's getting there ever so slightly. That's how the second movie ends. He has the Master Emerald, they're all agreeing to protect it. So like things from the games are working their way in there. I think it's a great medium for it that they're doing.
Yeah, you know, you said that they found a really good balance, and I think that's kind of key here. And I think one other thing that they've kind of added to this mix that I think the fans really react to is they've done small, subtle things to really nod to the fans. And I think that whenever studios are doing that, I think it shows a keen interest in product quality. And I think that that's something that all three of these films have done well. I do have to say that I think the third one kind of did more of that than any of the first two, which I mean I loved all of it, so I don't have any complaints about that at all. I just think it's a good thing. You know, I think it's a good thing when huge fans of the series see subtle nods in these huge films because it shows, like I said, an interest in the behind the scenes of the product that they're putting into a film, and I think that's only a good thing. The Mario film did that as well, and I think we're going to continue to see that sort of thing, and it's only a good thing for people like us who love these worlds and these characters and know these quotes that would go right through someone and us. Yeah. That's a huge part of, you know, our past, and it's only a good thing. And these movies, I think, are going to continue to do that because they've got plenty of material.
Absolutely. I think the last two things before we go into our kind of spoiler discussion. Number one, just to quickly expand on the Last of Us thing. I think something like Sonic and Mario Bros. Can work so good as movies if care and attention is done to them, is because their source games like don't have a lot of like meaty story bits to them, so there's room to like tell an original story but still honor what these characters are, can do, what they're known for. Whereas I think the problem that I have with The Last of Us is The Last of Us is already a movie. Like, the game is basically an interactive movie, and that's not a criticism. I think it's a fantastic game. That's something that works really well for it, and that's kind of why I think that it didn't really grab me too much as a TV show, because I'm sitting there like, I could just play the game right now and get all this exact same stuff. Like, good effort. I applaud your effort. It's a well done show, but at the same time, like, why? It's the same exact thing. Whereas with Sonic 1, 2, and 3 specifically kind of adapts Adventure 2's story, but again, keyword kind of. There's like a lot of differences that make it like fresh even if you know that story, and 1 and 2 were just completely their own things. Same with the Mario Bros. Movie. Yeah, we have like our basic elements of a Mario game. Bowser's the bad guy, you gotta save the Mushroom Kingdom, but the story it tells is distinct from any previous Mario thing, right? So that's the cool thing.
Well, and I think to your exact point there, I think IPs like Mario and Sonic really benefit from the fact that they've been around for so long. There are so many games. When someone turns on a Sonic game or a Sonic film, they want to see Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, Shadow, Eggman. They want to see those characters. They don't necessarily care how. And I think that plays into why we've seen some of these video game IPs do really well in film, because like you said, Bowser's got to be there, Peach has got to be there, Mario, Luigi. I don't care how. I just want to see those characters, and Sonic works the exact same. They don't need to follow the exact story. We just want the characters. You know what I mean?
You left out a bunch. Big the Cat, Silver, Espio,
Hey,
Victor.
this is we're not into the spoiler part yet.
Vector. I don't remember his name. All of them.
We haven't seen any of them yet.
It's true. I had a thought about the end credits earlier. Actually, kind of gave me like a bit of a heart skip, and not in a good way. We'll get into that if I can remember to say it again. I might forget. The last thing I want to say before spoiler thing is the realization of how generational Sonic has become. So I said before that I saw it 3 times, right? The second time that I saw it, something really funny was happening. There was this family, and they had like a little kid. He couldn't have been more than 5 years old. He pretty much stood up the entire movie, which I thought was kind of quirky. But when Shadow first appears on screen, it's the scene from the trailer in that test tube when his eyes open up. The kid just screams, "Shadow!" Ah! Like, he was so excited, having the time of his life. Did that at multiple points during the movie. I'm not even annoyed. It was just kind of nice energy in the room. Like, that's one of the only kind of, I guess, perks to seeing a movie in theaters is you may get lucky and have an experience like that where you kind of feel like everyone's united right now in this room. But that got me thinking, like, this kid's 5 years old. Like, his reference to who these characters are is like so different from ours. Like, we're thinking back to these older properties like Adventure and Adventure 2 and Sonic X and so on. He probably, I would assume, and doesn't even know what that stuff is, and has grown up watching like Sonic Prime on Netflix, or playing like the most current Sonic games like Forces and Frontiers and so on. And I thought that was like really interesting because these characters have appeared in a lot of different things, and they are not always the same. Like, there's little tweaks here and there. Knuckles probably the most, because he started off as like a pretty serious like bad guy type dude in Sonic 3, and then in Adventure he was still pretty serious, and then Sonic Boom changed him to being like this big dumb tough guy who like makes all the "I'm the dumb guy" kind of jokes. The show is actually pretty damn funny, to be honest. And then the movie with Idris Elba playing the role turned him into something totally new. Like, he's this honor-bound, super serious warrior guy. Like, they're all different, right? Like, it's pretty interesting. But like, I just thought it was cool that like the kid here is enjoying this thing, but like way different frames of references for these characters. It reaches different people in different ways because of how long this franchise has been around.
For sure. Well, you know, when we first started this, you brought up kind of how you're more of a fan of some of the stuff now, and that you don't really have the nostalgia piece. My experience with Sonic is really bizarre, to be honest with you. Really, the only game up until some of the things that we've done for the channel, really the only Sonic game I've ever played is Adventure 2. And it's certainly the only one that I've really put a lot of time into. To be honest with you, I wasn't really a huge fan of the IP growing up. I was like a Nintendo kid, and you know, Sonic was like the Sega thing, and we never even owned one of those, so I just never really had the chance to play. Funny fact, I played Adventure 2 on GameCube.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just that, you know, if I think of Sonic for me, I think of Adventure 2. So that specific fact lended itself really well to this film, and we'll get into some more of that later.
Yep. How about now? So, spoiler time. We're gonna go into the movie, give it our thoughts, and we're gonna talk about every piece of it in some way. Probably, it depends, but definitely talk about the ending and different things that aren't in the trailers. So this is your spoiler warning. I would advise you go see the movie because it is great. But now we're going to talk about spoilers. So I think first we just said Adventure 2. So this game is like kind of a loose adaptation of Adventure 2, namely with the introduction of Shadow the Hedgehog, but also some other things as well. Some expected, some not. I guess starting with stuff in the trailers, we got 2 Robotniks. So, like I was saying earlier, it's an adaptation of Adventure 2, but not completely because Gerald Robotnik was not alive in Adventure 2. In the movie, he is. Jim Carrey's doing double duty this time around.
Yeah, and when I think about this film, and I think about the fact that it was funny but not too funny. Sometimes it's Jim Carrey can be a lot, right? Now I love Jim Carrey, and I think that he's great, and I think that he's great in this film. But I felt like Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 more than Sonic 1 and 2. I felt like they just told him to take off the gloves and just do whatever he wants.
Yep.
But it worked. It wasn't too much. Jim Carrey is a strength of the first two films, and I would say that he's a strength of the third as well. And there's just more of him. There were a few jokes that I thought were really great. I thought that the third act, I think you saw kind of a different guy, and I'm fine with that. I'm curious to see what we end up seeing in Sonic 4. I know they've already signed on to do that. And is Jim Carrey going to be in it? And if so, in what way? He kind of ended this on like a who really knows type thing, which is the same as Sonic 2. I feel like they're, not really sure at the end of these films what Jim is going to do or not do. So they have to kind of plan it accordingly. But he was great in this, and yeah, you're right. You got two of them, which I knew ahead of time. I had spoiled for me, but I don't know if you did.
I never saw. Yeah, he was in the original trailers because it was the clip where he's like, "Isn't it?" They're talking back and forth.
Got it.
So
okay.
I did know. I was kind of like, I was wondering what this was going to be about though, because again, like Gerald is not in Adventure 2 directly, although he is important to the plot. He's not physically in Adventure 2's present day events. So right away I was like, okay, this is getting a little unpredictable now, which is a good thing. That's what I like about this. It's, like the Last of Us issue. Like now I don't really know necessarily how this is all going to unfold in what way, because this is a monkey wrench to the original story. And I liked it too. I thought they were funny. Like there's a lot of goofy stuff. Like you said, I agree. I think they just kind of told him to run wild. And some of the making of stuff that I've seen, there's not much of it out right now, but of what I've seen, it seems like that was the case. Because like there is like some references to like, let's try it this way, let's do that. Like they're definitely doing like some improvisation with their alternate takes and stuff, maybe. But I dug it. Definitely, I think there were like a lot of pretty like hysterical, like I was laughing out loud moments with the two of them. I think the Santa Claus one was probably my favorite.
So that's the best example to me of them letting Jim do whatever he wants, because that whole bit really felt like it wasn't even in the film. Like that could have been like a short film ad for the film. But it was just thrown in there, and it was so funny, and it was a total like change of pace. When the song started, you kind of knew what you were in for. Like this is going to be a montage of two Jim Carreys, and that's great.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, pretty funny. And then gotta give a shout out to my man Agent Stone, my favorite supporting villain guy, probably in all of fiction at this point. I really adore the fact that they've kept him around for all three movies. I've loved him since the first one. I loved that there's evidence of Robotnik genuinely caring for him in the second one. I mean, why would he have brought him on to the Death Egg Robot if he didn't like him on some level, right? And I like that they kind of go into that a little more in the third one. They kind of explore their relationship a little bit, and have like a kind of heartfelt end to it, where Robotnik does say like, "Yo, you are a friend of mine. I'm sorry, I was a jerk," before he, supposedly dies. But I like that. I thought it was pretty cool, because I like that their a little weird relationship is so funny to me. Agent Stone and Robotnik, it's great.
Yeah, I don't know why I found it to be so funny, but the scene when Agent Stone and Shadow go into the crab, and he's like, "Let's go make guac." I don't know why. I just think that's so funny. And then
It's
it
because
cuts back, and he's literally like
yeah, it's because like
scooping out. Like it's so
it's
great.
because Agent Stone is like genuinely a kind of sweet guy deep down. Like that's what's so weird about him. Like there are moments where like he is clearly a bad person. Like he's being snappy at the at Team Sonic and stuff, and you're like, okay, he's a bad guy. But then there's those Quack moments where you're like, what is the deal with this guy? Like,
Right. Right.
so yeah, loved
So
him.
So before we get too much into the specifics of the film, one thing that I really wanted to get through that I think the movie does incredibly well is Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails.
I was just about to ask you about that. Yep.
When they're a group and when they're on screen, so good. I don't exactly know who I like the most. I think it might be Tails, but I'm not totally sure.
Which is
I didn't think it would be Tails.
crazy, because no one liked Tails back in the day.
I love Tails. I think he's great. I think he's really like, I like that he's the tech guy. I like that he's, for the most part, he plays things pretty safe. I think he's really cute, to be honest with you. I just think that I just think that the entire cast, and it really goes back to this team doing such a great job adapting video game characters onto the screen. And all three of them are done so well that it's hard to say, like, which one do I like the most? You know, they all kind of bring their own unique flair. And I just think that they do such a great job with those three. And it really elevates the film, for sure.
Yeah, Tails is also the only one who's voiced by one of the game actresses. Her name is Colleen, I forget the last name. I believe she started voicing Tails with the Sonic Boom reboot era, which changed a lot of things for Sonic. Sonic Boom was like its own little contained project. There was the Wii U game, a 3DS game, and then the TV show. The TV show ended up being the one successful thing. And that's where she started voicing the character, which is pretty cool to have like one of the actual Sonic voice actresses like in the movies. Three now. Knuckles the show as well. I noticed something pretty funny about Tails in Sonic 3. When everyone splits up and they're all like doing their thing, you get Sonic and Robotnik kind of talking together. You got Stone and Tails together. There's that funny interaction where like the surface level joke is, ha ha ha, Agent Stone is mistreated by Robotnik, like they're not friends. But there's something funny, like Tails is like such an innocent little guy that he just assumes that Agent Stone and Robotnik have the same relationship that he and Sonic have, even though they're evil. Like, he obviously understands morality, but it's really funny to me that he's just, like, so oblivious to the idea that Stone is, like, this abused henchman. He's just like, you're friends with Robotnik, aren't you? Like, yeah, it's the same as being Sonic. It's the same. And Stone's like, oh, yeah, it's totally the same. Like, I thought that's just, like, a cool thing for Tails' character. He's, like, such a little innocent little dude.
That was the segment in the film where it felt like it was, like, ripped right out of Scooby-Doo, right?
Yep.
That, to me, that segment was kind of strange. It worked in a weird way, but yeah, I remember. I think I made a comment to you during the film.
You said that
was like an episode of Scooby-Doo.
There's a cutaway gag in it too, like it's Family Guy for a minute. They have the cutaway gag about Casper.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was great. There's no such thing as a friendly ghost.
Well, also what I can't figure out is he scared of ghosts, or is he scared of the idea of a ghost that's friendly and like that's perverse in its own nature? Like it should be an evil ghost. The friendly ghost is a terrifying concept. I can't figure it out. Also really funny because of that. The chemistry between the three of them is so good, and like there's like a theme kind of seemingly developing here. Took note of this in like an interview that Ben Schwartz was doing, and I'm like, oh yeah, kinda. The first movie is about Sonic, like, you know, making friends, making connections, protecting those friends. The second movie is about Sonic like being part of a team, and then the third movie is like, they say it's about Sonic being a leader. I don't really see that. I mean, we never really see him successfully lead the team. if anything, he fails, which is part of the journey, right? I think it's more about them like functioning as a team is like what's put to the test in this movie. But it's kind of cool how like the 2 and 3 at least like challenge these 3 characters in different ways. So like you said, I think that they have excellent chemistry too. When all 3 of them are interacting, it's just gold. All those sequences.
Yeah, I think this movie is more about Sonic learning how to be on a team.
Yeah, I would
Because
agree.
even 10 minutes into the film, he makes that mistake. You know what I mean? So it's like yeah, to me, this film from the beginning, middle, and end, it's about him learning how to be a part of a team.
And I like that there is something like that happening because like it isn't necessarily an arc because he still fails to do that by the end, but again, it's part of the journey. And I like that they're not just this perfectly cohesive team out of the offset. Like they're still learning. We might see that in 4, but we didn't see it here. We see them trying and like trusting each other and learning. I mean, it's cool. I like that they're going through stuff, but no one goes through stuff harder than Shadow the Hedgehog. So he's the new guy. So last time Knuckles and Tails were like the 2 new guys. Knuckles more so. Now it's Shadow. So Shadow the Hedgehog.
So like I said, I Adventure 2 was like the Sonic game that I played. So I was pretty experienced as far as he goes. Didn't really know too much about his backstory though. So the whole Maria thing was actually pretty new to me, to be honest with you. I thought that they handled the character really well. I thought Keanu Reeves did a great job. I wasn't exactly sure at first because I had heard a couple sound bits and a few lines from the film before I saw it, and I was like, I'm not sure if this is gonna work. And man, did it work. He did a great job. They handled the character arc really well. Again, serious but not too serious. I liked the way that he skated on the water. I thought that was really great. Me and you both noticed that immediately. I just thought that they, again, adapted a character from the game into film, did a great job, got somebody to do his voice that worked really well. And I thought it just added to the film, and it was a great part of it.
Yeah, I love the voice. Shadow's voice has changed here and there over the years. Like, for example, the original was not far off from what we see with Keanu Reeves. It's like darker, more serious. Yep. Not as gruff as Keanu Reeves, but like it's similar in that delivery. But then like Sonic Prime, I think he's more like kind of. They want him to be Vegeta, I guess, from Dragon Ball. Like he's just like this weirdo. He's like, "You insulted my honor, I will punish you." So like the character has been different things over the years.
With my Glock.
I love it. So some differences from Adventure. He in the games, Shadow is a creation by Gerald Robotnik. From alien DNA, from aliens called the Black Arms. They're the main bad guys of the Shadow the Hedgehog game. And the whole purpose of creating Shadow was to be like this catalyst for medical advancement and gene therapy crap. The idea being that Maria has some disease that they're hoping that Shadow's physiology can cure. But before that comes to fruition, Gunn thinks that Shadow's too dangerous, and so is the Bio-Lizard thing, the final boss of Adventure 2. And they raid the base, and Maria is accidentally killed during that. There's also a whole thing about like Gerald implants like false memories in Shadow's mind to make him more vengeful when he's reawoken. So that's the game. Amy is the one that talks him down at the end of Adventure 2 and kind of makes him realize that the memories are false, and that Maria actually told him, don't kill everybody, be a good guy instead, which then leads to, the epic live and learn moment. In the movie, he's just straight up an alien.
Yeah.
The meteor he landed in kind of has the Black Arms flavoring to it, though, so I'm wondering if they're keeping that in their back pocket or something. Like, maybe they'll still have the Black Arms at some point. But he lands, and Maria is not sick. She's just there. But they're still friends and have the bond. They give that to us in pieces across the movie. I think they handled that all pretty well. I liked how the Maria flashbacks were. They were interesting, and instead of him being like tricked and having false memories of promising vengeance to avenge her, her death is plenty of motivation to want vengeance. So I think that worked out great. I would be angry too. I get it. But then also Gerald's still alive, which is how you get your two Robotniks, because he was long dead in Adventure 2. But I loved it. So Keanu Reeves' delivery is like very serious and kind of tragic. The character is very visually cool, and like the stuff to do with him is really interesting. He skates on the water, he can teleport, he fights, he has a lot of power. It's great. We even get our like little edgelord moment where he has the pistol in his hand, and I was like, oh, there's Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that exact scene, the Tokyo fight in really the first act of the film, where we get a really nice Akira motorcycle slide. I said to you during the film, man, Shadow looked great. Like that fight scene really, and really the whole chase scene really set the tone for what ended up being a great film. And yeah, that was a notable scene for me, because from a color standpoint, they were really doing a lot with the color. It had this almost like neon cyberpunk look. Really, the first act of this film really did a great job, to grab you. And there were some lulls here and there, but the film moved at an absolute breakneck pace, which you kind of want if it's a Sonic film.
Absolutely, it goes fast. Speaking of the pacing, like one of the few things that kind of hit me weird in that movie. So the movie begins, Shadow breaks out, and then a gun helicopter comes to Team Sonic and is like, we need you to, stop this new threat. Right away, I'm kind of like, we never really established that they're friends. Like, that never really happened. The Knuckles show, if anything, did the opposite, because that show is all about how there's like these kind of rogue agents within Gun. So I was kind of confused by that out of the gate, but whatever. I can believe it, because the last major thing with Walters in 2 is him like acknowledging that Sonic and them are allies, not enemies, when they're in Hawaii still. So okay, I can believe that, sure, whatever. But after their first fight with Sonic, like, it just hit me so weird that like they're in that little Chow Garden restaurant and Walter sits down, and it's just like he just goes like right into the Shadow backstory stuff. Like they have like 2 phrases. He's like, Sonic, we're friends, obviously, and I'm glad you're okay. Let me tell you about Shadow the Hedgehog. It's just like, it's like the pacing of that specific scene is like so odd to me. He just like comes out right and let me tell you about our Lord and Savior Shadow the Hedgehog. I'm gonna get it across to you right now.
So on the reverse side of that whole scene, I absolutely loved the Pikachu Pokemon thing between Knuckles and Tails. I thought it was absolutely great.
Yes, that was funny. Yeah, 100%. That was funny. Oh, that whole scene, like the Chow Garden thing, is really funny.
I mean, I was like, oh my god, it's the Chow Garden, you know what I mean? So, yeah, and then just another subtle nod to the fans.
And then they kill Walters? Question mark? That also was like, whoa, like what is going on? He just showed up.
Yeah, the whole gun thing, I'm kind of on the same side with you. Like, I never really got a good feeling for like what the relationship between Team Sonic and Gun really was, and it felt like from the jump there was a distrust there. Like when Walters gave Sonic the key, and he was like, "Okay, we got to get out of here," and everybody was like, "Okay, why?" And he's like, "Key," and it's like, "Well, why are you assuming that they're going to be bad about the key thing? Where does this come from?"
Yeah, because that's the like one confusing arc in this movie is Commander Rockwell, who comes in there like a bat out of hell, like, where's the key? So you're like, she's got to be evil, right? Well, I don't think so. I genuinely think that she was above board the whole time, and her whole thing is that she didn't trust Team Sonic specifically, because later on, when they all decide to break into the gun HQ and they're gonna get the second key, like, she doesn't talk about it like she wants to take it for herself. Her dialogue is specifically like, I got you both. I got Sonic under arrest and I got Robotnik under arrest. I have won today. So I was like, what are you? Are you here to betray us? Are you a good I genuinely can't tell what you are. And it's not necessarily a good thing.
On that exact note, you know, me and you have discussed a lot of film, and whenever we talk about Godzilla, we always say, like, the smaller role the humans have, the better the film's going to be. Now, with -1, I would argue that in that movie, but for the most part, we just want monsters fighting, you know? And I think that this movie is the same thing. Like, I didn't think that the Kristen Ritter, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
I think it's Kristen Ritter.
I think so.
I didn't think that character needed to exist at all.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what they're doing with that character.
Yeah, the human element in this film was fine. It was reserved for sure, which was a good thing, because
compared to the previous ones, absolutely.
When you see a Sonic film, like, you want to see Sonic. You don't want to see Cyclops, right? So it's like just the that's one thing that the film does a good job with, but also kind of a bad job, because the good part of that is that the humans have a very small role. The bad part of that is sometimes the story beats kind of miss a little bit in regards to the humans, like the whole keycard thing and the whole room with the reversed gravity. I thought was, like, so played out and did not need to be as long as it was. Yeah, I just think that the human part of this film, in a good way, it was small. In a bad way, I thought that sloppy a little bit at times.
Because parts of it work really well for me, because honestly, I do really enjoy Sheriff Tom and his wife Maddie. Like, I do like them as characters. I have since the beginning. And I think that they are almost used perfectly. Because, like, they're not in a lot of this movie as much as they were in 2 and the first one. At least for Tom specifically, but because Maddie's brilliant in the first one. I think that, like you said, the whole key card thing, you know, was just kind of weird. Like, I don't know that they could have gotten away with just not even needing them to break into that base, but I think that it is a powerful moment to have Shadow, you know, almost kill Tom and kind of have the seeds of doubt for what he's doing are planted in that moment, where he realizes, like, you know, is this the right way? Because he's doing to someone else what happened to him, like 1 for 1. Like, he just murdered someone's friend, at least as far as he's concerned in that moment, right then and there. He just killed Tom, and he's like, oh, this is what happened to Maria, you know, what am I doing? And he kind of steals himself in that moment, but he has doubts, which he then kind of goes to Gerald about, like, you know, is this what Maria would have wanted? He's only saying that because of what happened to Tom. So, like, I like ultimately what happens with how they're used. But yeah, to your point, like, there's a lot of stuff that just didn't even need to be there at all. Like, the Rockwell character is ultimately just pointless. Didn't need to be in the movie, period. I don't get it. If she's not going to be some kind of twist villain or twist hero, why even have her in the movie? She just disappears after that sequence. She's gone. Exactly. They also just, like, forgot to arrest them too. Like, they're all, like, there to arrest everybody, and the gravity thing happens. Like, all right, clocking out, coffee time. Like, it's they just freely walk out of the building. It's crazy. It's the one part that's, like, not great. The finale, because there's a big moment in this finale. Firstly, the ties to Adventure 2, we get the arc, kind of. It's the Eclipse Cannon part of the arc, basically. In the game, Robotnik wants to use that to, like, threaten humanity, and he blows up the moon as, like, a test to go, look how powerful I am. But in actuality, Gerald has rigged the whole thing to, like, crash into the Earth when you fully activate it, and that's what prompts the whole finale for Adventure 2. They gotta stop the Ark from crashing into the Earth. And Shadow and Sonic, they team up, live and learn, and they use Chaos Control to teleport the Ark back into orbit. Done. The movie doesn't really have the Ark. It is and it isn't, right? It's a big thing that looks like the Ark, and it has the Eclipse cannon, but we still get the beautiful moment. The return of Crush 40's magnum opus.
Yeah, and I think the build-up to that's really good too. I think when Sonic goes supersonic and then starts to fly up, and then it cuts back to the ship, and Robotnik and Shadow are there, and Shadow says, "What are they shooting at us?" And then the other Robotnik has the quill, and the closer he gets, it turns yellow. To me, I'm getting chills telling you about it. Like that scene right there, that kind of, and then he just blows right through the ship and takes Shadow to the moon. Yeah, that whole bit to me was so good. And then it goes into what I thought was the best part of the entire film, which was actually not the like very, very end, but it was the 1v1 Super Shadow supersonic battle, when you could see it from space and they were fighting and you could see how far they were going. That was the singular coolest shot in the entire film to me, because it kind of gave us, the viewer, like, this is a really large scale fight here and these two are going like full power. And I just thought it was so great. And then when they get to the ruins and Shadow starts to say, you know, your friends tried to stop you and you did it anyway. What kind of guy are you? And then he brings up Tom, and then you get to see Sonic kind of come out of his shell just a little bit, you know, as far as like vengeance goes. And I thought that was really cool too. You had made a comment when we watched the film at the very beginning, when Tom is like, it's about what's in here.
Oh, yeah.
You were like foreshadowing, and I was like, my brain wasn't even there. I was, this movie's awesome, you know what I mean? But you were right, and that's that was a great part of the film, and I thought that it looked so cool. Like that punch when he sends Shadow flying, like I could watch that so many times. And it was cool because, you know, they're both really fast, right? But think about how fast Sonic had to be to get to Shadow that fast for Shadow to be like surprised. And I just thought it was really, really cool, and it was a highlight moment of the film for me for sure.
Yeah, because I think that this is where the movie does a good job earning these moments, because number one, we see Sonic like doubting himself and his decisions, like his decision to use the emeralds, and Knuckles and him having a little argument and stuff, and then Sonic just totally losing it and like slamming Shadow into the moon, pure anger and rage, before realizing like the whole, I can't do this, like it's wrong. So like I think that was cool. It's a cool little arc to go through. But I like that Shadow's thing is like earned really well too, because it's simplistically earned in Adventure 2, because that game, you know, it's a simple game. It's not going to have like super deep and complex writing. I think Amy's argument to him is like, not everyone deserves to die. It's like something like that. Like it's not like super deep. You're like, it's something like that. Whereas in this movie, the moment of realization is light from stars remain even after the star is gone. And I think that that's kind of powerful. Because like he's, you know, Maria's, you know, you have the memories, you have like your love of her still persists beyond her death, and that's his like moment of coming out of the vengeance, and then we get our moment. Yeah. I will say people complain about the song not being used long enough. That first moment is just 1-to-1 what happens in the game. They transform together, and like that's the extent of how much the song plays. The song in its entirety plays during the boss fight, but not during their transformation cutscene. That was pretty much exactly like the game. The two of them transforming, live and learn is supposed to play. Everyone poops their pants.
I thought the use of the song was great. I thought the way that, and you pointed this out too, you know, throughout the film, they kind of hint to that. more than once. There's the guitar scene in the beginning of the film, and you pointed it out, but yeah, I think the use of the song was great. I'm actually kind of in the same camp. Like I would, the entire, from them going, I guess stage one, I don't know what it's called, but from them going to that and then making their way to the ship, the scene when they're fighting all of the like the mech machines, which was really cool, by the way. I would have preferred the song played during that entire time, so we could have gotten some of the cooler bits of the song, because the majority of the song that I recall was from that boss battle. So
it is, yeah.
Lyrics and some lines that I really wanted to hear that I didn't get the chance to, but still, you know, it was a great moment, and I was super glad that it was there.
Same. I think it's been a long time coming. There actually was a lot of music from the games in this movie specifically. For some reason, despite Sonic having a pretty huge library of pretty iconic tracks, the first two movies just didn't really have any of them beyond some little like reference stuff, like Tom's ringtone is the Green Hill Zone theme, little things like that. But 3 actually used more of it than you might realize. For example, when the Eclipse cannon is taking off, it's the Eggman theme from the games. That's just from the games, like straight up. And then like the victory stage completion theme plays when he wins the race at the beginning, and then obviously Live and Learn. And I agree with you. Like I would have preferred to hear like more of the song during their fight with the robots, because that would have been more synchronous with how it works in the game, because the song just plays in loop during the boss fight against the Bio-Lizard in the game. Whereas in the movie, we really only get like this kind of short, mostly orchestral remix of it. That portion didn't even have the lyrics in it. The lyrics are only in the first part, so like you really don't get much of the actual song in practice. The full mix of that is like 5 minutes long. That whole thing is 5 minutes long, and we only got like a tiny piece of it in the movie itself.
Right. Right. I mean, I like I said, I would have preferred to hear really the song in its entirety, but again, glad it was there.
Yeah, it needed to be.
The Shadow Eggman sacrifice. How do you? Well, since we're doing spoilers here,
post credits.
Shadow's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw Shadow being fine in the post credit scene, so that's exciting. Eggman though, do you think he's gone?
I don't know. So I thought it was kind of cool that, you know, Shadow takes off his inhibitor rings. That wasn't really established what those are in this movie. You'd have to be a fan to get that, obviously. And then he saves the day, and they seemingly both die. But then the post credits show us the Shadow is obviously alive. I feel like they'll probably do like a Shadow and Rouge TV show with him next, but we'll see. Eggman dying, I don't know. I think they gave it an out just in case Jim Carrey can't or won't come back, because I feel like at this point they could safely move to a new villain. I think that they needed to like kind of complete something for his character. Like 2 was not enough. You had to do one more. And I think that the kind of arc he goes through in this movie of kind of realizing my grandpa sucks and Stone was my one true friend the whole time, and I regret, you know, I tell him at the end, like the little journey he goes through I think is cool. I don't know, we'll have to see, because like a part of me hopes that he's back, obviously, because he could work great as a supporting character, or he could be the villain again. I don't know. Jim Carrey just crushes it as Robotnik, so it'd be cool to have him come back, but I could see that they have kind of already created a way to just leave him out of it if not. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Shadow just teleported in the ship, got him, and then left right before it blew up. That's what I think.
That'll be the reason if he lives, for sure.
I mean, I just think that that's probably what occurred, and if not, you're right. It provided them an out just in case, and I think that's if that was the last time we see Jim Carrey play that role, I'm cool with that, because
me too.
Like you said, we saw the arc, and it worked well, and he certainly elevated all three of these films. And I'm curious to see what they do as far as villains in the next one.
Well, we got a bit of a tease of that, right? So post-credit scenes, per the science of analyzing Maddie's clothes, we all knew that Amy was coming. So silly, dude.
I'd love to be the guy that plans that.
Oh my god! Since the beginning,
tiny, subtle thing that people like. It's great. I love it.
Since the beginning, if you don't know, Maddie's clothes have predicted the character announcements for each subsequent film. Started with the end of Sonic 1, she had a yellow shirt on, and post-credit scene was Tails. End of Sonic 2, black shirt, black or red, and then the post-credit was Shadow. And then in the Knuckles show, she was wearing pink, and then she wears pink again in the beginning of Sonic 3, and then we get Amy at the end. Amy also looks pretty much like her Sonic Boom version, which is cool with me. I'm looking forward to what they do with that character, because like Knuckles, there's just infinite room for improvement. She is just the most annoying thing ever in Adventure 1 and 2, whereas she's way more likable in like Boom and Forward. So I'm looking forward to that, honestly. But as far as villains go, Metal Sonic was in the post-credit scene. That's a big villain.
Looked so good too.
He looked awesome. That was just one-to-one how he's looked in like the games in the 3D era. That's pretty. I was like, Metal Sonic, holy crap. At the same time, it was kind of a throwaway thing because Amy just annihilates all of them in like seemingly no effort. So I'm like, okay, so is that like the Metal Sonic, or are these just drones? It kind of makes me think that they're gonna do like Neo Metal Sonic or something, but we'll have to see.
So apparently, and you know, I read this online, so it could be wrong, but if you go back and you watch the hammers hitting all of the Sonic, one of them just gets knocked away. And it's presumed that that's the real Metal Sonic.
The main unit, yeah.
But the main unit, yeah. So, I don't know. You know, I think that either way, we're going to see Metal Sonic in Sonic 4. I don't know if it'll be like the main enemies, you know what I mean? Kind of like the way that they did this scene. But either way, I love it. I think it's great.
I think the Metal Sonic... You could definitely carry as a villain, because you'd have to do what happens in Sonic Heroes. Like, he kind of gradually gets more powerful throughout the duration of it, climaxing with him as an actual mecha kaiju. Like, that's cool. You could do that. It's called Metal Overlord. Like, that's whenever when people talk about Metal Sonic, that's kind of what they always want to see. Because his mid form is called Neo Metal Sonic, and he looks pretty sick. So I could see it starting with Neo Metal Sonic as like the puppet master of these Metal Sonic drones, and then the big finale's Metal Overlord. But who knows? It might have just been like a throwaway scene. Like, it's hard to say. As far as what we think's coming next beyond Amy and Metal, Maddie's shirt at the very end, oh god, was like a cloudy white pink kind of thing, which makes me think Rouge the Bat, because she had pink eyelashes but is white in color, so white and pink, it's Rouge the Bat. But the dark thought went through my brain earlier today, and I was like, oh god, what if it's Silver the Hedgehog and they're gonna do like time travel stuff or something? That's also, I guess, on the table.
Give me Rouge. I would rather do that. Plus, I think that it would be a good way to have. The only thing I worry about is them doing this too many times, because they did it with Knuckles, they did it with Shadow. What if Rouge starts off as a villain in Sonic 4 and then ends up being like, that would mean that they did that 3 times. So
true.
I wonder how that would go.
It's true.
And how they're going to utilize the character. So we'll have to see.
I will say that, at least to their credit, that is how those characters were in the games. Because Knuckles is the villain of Sonic 3. Like, he is an obstacle. He's been tricked by Robotnik to Robotnik, like, tells Knuckles, like, hey, Sonic's coming to steal your emerald. You better stop him. and that's how they come to blows. And then Shadow, same kind of thing. So at the very least, they're honoring the source material. But to your credit, yes, it would be very repetitive if it's just another like villain turned hero. But Rouge is like, lawful neutral or whatever you want to say the term is. So like, I feel like she could be whatever and it'd be fine. She's a thief. She's out for her own needs and benefits typically. I don't think she'd be like a full-on villain.
Well, and I think that would be a really good way for them to kind of circumvent that concern. Is like, she's a merc, so she's going to align herself with whichever side she thinks is going to benefit her the most. It doesn't need to be this like long drawn out story of how they were confused and changed their ways right at the end. It can just be, she's like, this is not the winning side. I'm not going to be on this. I'm going to go hang out with that guy. And I think that'd be fine too. Like maybe she buddies up with Shadow like three quarters of the way through the film, and they're like, hey, she's a villain, and Shadow's like, nah, she's with me. Done.
No, all right, resolved.
Yeah, resolved. We're good. Crisis averted.
When you reference like that, I was like foreshadowing. I should have said that I'm something of a screenwriter myself. That's how I recognize that kind of stuff. I mean, I literally have like read a book on screenwriting, and I've done film classes, and I'm currently a film student. So yeah, I do sniff out that stuff coming. I mean, it's pretty obvious though. But I just said that earlier. We'll have to see. I'm excited though. I think that the franchise is in a very good place right now. We'll have to see if we get another show or not. I feel like we will. That would make the most sense. And then we'll see what happens with Sonic 4 coming in probably 2 years. I think they said 2027. That'd technically be 3 years, but they've been kind of coming every 2 years. We'll see.
Okay, so who is on your short list for voicing Amy? Because they've gone pretty much big stars every single time except for Tails. So you'd think they're probably going to.
How dare you?
No offense to whoever's doing the voice of Tails, but you know what I mean. Keanu Reeves.
Ben Schwartz did that in his interview, talking about all that. He's like, we got great talent here. He lists off every celebrity. At the end, he goes, and Colleen. And I was like, dude, one of the three main characters. You jerk.
Or Tails. No respect at all.
No respect
I
at all.
love Tails. Great.
I know, I like him too. He's done great. Again, historically a very annoying character, done really well in these movies. I don't know.
Based on trends, it's probably going to be Anya Taylor-Joy.
I was about to say that. I was about to say it's probably going to be Anya Taylor-Joy.
She's great, and I love her, and she does a great job as Peach. But like, it's probably going to be Anya Taylor-Joy. That or I don't know.
Emma Stone.
Tina Fey.
Emma
Stone. I don't know.
Either
way, I'm excited to see who it is because they've set the bar so high for all of these that that they're going to take it really seriously, which is great.
Yeah. Go see it. It's good.
Definitely. I enjoyed it a lot, and I don't know when it's going to be on streaming, but whenever it is, I'm certainly going to buy it. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to owning that one in my collection for sure. So that was Sonic 3. So next time we will do pretty much you can't get more opposite than the energy of this movie with Nosferatu. We'll talk about that experience because we're going to have some differing thoughts on that one for sure. I know we are. So we will catch you on the next one for the conclusion of Nosferatu.